If we have not met, most of you I know I have met, but if we have not met, I'm Jeff McCann. I am the Choice and Charter Schools Coordinator for Rutherford County, and I will serve as the facilitator basically for this meeting. You'll notice that there are some empty chairs here and there, so we have some members of our committee who might be a little late, and that's okay. We're going to accommodate that for them. A lot going on right now, but these are basically members of the application review team. All of us up here played a part in reviewing your submitted application. So first of all, congratulations to you for being invited to participate in this very arduous process that we know takes a lot of time and effort to submit an application to start a charter school. It's a very rigorous process, and we thank you for committing to that and engaging with us in that process. Let me go over a few details about the interview itself. It's slated to last up to 90 minutes. I've yet to conduct one of these that was finished in 90 minutes, but that's the goal. We're going to do our best, but we're very flexible. We do want to allow you plenty of time to respond and us to ask questions to gain some clarity, okay? We'll take about 5 to 10 minutes for introductions on both sides, and then if you want to make an opening statement, you're welcome to do that. It's optional, but we invite you to do that. About 70 or so minutes will be taken up with the list of questions that we have generated. We may have some follow-up or clarifying questions as well, so it's okay if it takes longer than that, okay? And in the final 10 minutes, we'll just kind of open up to you to ask questions of us and for us to discuss next steps in the process itself, okay? We have all read your application and developed some questions, and our goal today is to give you an opportunity to clarify some questions that we have in hopes to raise the ratings that we determine for your application so we can make a positive presentation to our board, okay? It's not a gotcha moment. We're not here to put you on the spot. We just have some questions. It's hard to address everything in a 500-page application. There's just some things that we need some clarification on, and this is your chance to do that, okay? So just a few ground rules. You probably already have decided who's going to respond to most questions, but if you don't, just gonna designate somebody to respond to the questions. They can come up to the podium if they're not already seated in the front, but they don't have to. However, just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on our YouTube channel and can be accessed at any time really after this. But to speak, please hit the button on your microphone. You can move these microphones around and share them between you. But if your microphone is not on, the recording will not pick you up. So make sure to turn it on, and when you're done, turn it back off, okay? I expect to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on each response. That's the goal again, is to make your responses pretty concise, just to respect everyone's time and make sure we can get to everything we need to know, and you have time to respond to all of our questions. And feel free to ask us for clarification if you don't understand what we're looking for or asking, okay? A lot of topics to go over. If I cut you off or limit your responses, it's just for the sake of time. So again, you have the opportunity to respond to all our concerns and questions, okay? And then we'll come back and talk about what happens next at the end. So we're going to start with introductions. And after we introduce ourselves, I want you to introduce each member of the team and tell us what your role is, or what role you played in the application process, and what role you intend to have if the application is approved, okay? Like I said, I'm Jeff McCann. I'm the Coordinator of Choice and Charter Schools in Rutherford County, and we'll start on this side.
Mindy Walters, Charter Specialist for Rutherford County.
I'm Butch Vaughn. I'm on the Rutherford County School Board.
I'm Sherry King. I'm principal of an elementary school here in Rutherford County.
Susan Lovelace, I'm the elementary math specialist and instructional coach supervisor for elementary coaches.
Cindy Hayes, the ELA instructional specialist for middle schools, and then the instructional coach supervisor for middle and high.
Juan Garza, parent volunteer.
I'm Mark Goey, and I'm the Director of Special Populations and Federal Programs.
Andrea Bontempi, ESL Specialist for the county schools.
Hey, I'm Amy Ralston. I'm the Coordinator of Special Education here in Rutherford County.
And I'll introduce him as he's getting settled. This is Justin Smith. He's principal of Blackman High School here in Rutherford County. So at this time, if you guys would take the opportunity to introduce members of your team.
Well, thank you, Dr. McCann. I'll start. My name's Tom Lee. I'm an attorney. I'm a partner in the law firm of Nelson Mullins, Riley and Scarborough in Nashville, and I'm here today representing the Rethink Forward board. I am the secretary and general counsel to the board. And with me is our CMO team. Sherry, why don't you start?
I am Sherry Hage, and I am the CEO of NEI.
Good morning, I'm Eve Carney, and I am the Chief Policy, Growth, and Performance Officer with NEI.
Hi, good morning. Corbett Wilson, I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer for Noble Education Initiative.
Eric Lewis with Human Resources, Risk Management, and Compliance with Noble Education Initiative.
Dana Morales, the Senior Director of Academics.
Good morning, Teresa Ellison, Principal at Rutherford Collegiate Prep.
Dr. Ogundokun, if you would like to take a moment to turn your mic on and introduce yourself to the team here too.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Abiola Ogundokun.
And he is a parent volunteer that has agreed sort of at the last minute to take over a spot on her team, and we really appreciate, on our team, we really appreciate his input. Okay, so we'll dive right in, and really the first question that I would like, and this is probably pretty typical for a charter capacity interview like this, is I would like to hear you explain to us just an overview of the process that you engaged in to develop and write this particular application. Whoever would like to respond, please go.
Eve, would you like to take that question?
So as you noted, Dr. McCann, this is a process, and it involves many, many voices and many, many people. And that is kind of how we started this process, is within our own team and looking to say, okay, what is the vision for this charter school and this charter application? And so what we did is we went to the experts. We kind of bit this off into chunks and said, we want our instructional senior director of academics to really spend time thinking about how to craft an application that speaks to the instructional model and what this model brings to the families of Rutherford County in a way that is helpful, knowing that it is a bit of a different instructional model. We tapped the expertise of Dr. Corbett Wilson, who is our president and COO, to make sure that the funding and the facilities and all of the pieces were described, because we are one of the only groups that have built schools from the ground up, and so making sure that we had all that information in our application. Same with our how we recruit, retain, and support teachers. We tapped our Senior Director of Human Resources and Risk Management. We also spent a lot of time with our existing school leadership. Ms. Ellison is here with us today to really make sure that we captured at the school level the detail that we wanted to provide, so that, it's hard on paper to craft a vision for a school, but wanted to make sure that all of those voices, including those of, to ensure that all of our students were represented. Our special populations team, from the network level, we have a team that focuses on special education, English learners, for example, and making sure that we spent time and they spent time with the application, explaining how we represent, how we serve all students at our schools. So obviously we involved our board before we ever got started. Their support in this process has been invaluable. They have been very involved from the beginning, especially knowing that this would be another campus similar to its sister school, Rutherford Collegiate Prep, and how that could look and should look for another school. And last but not least, certainly not least, our parents, and really thinking about answering the call of what happens after 8th grade for our students, and so made sure that we had engagement there, as well as with some of our external partners who support groups of students and our teachers in our schools. And so the list you see in the application, we certainly tapped every single one of them and tried to compile it in a way that told the story that we want to tell. We feel very strongly about education and making sure that every parent has a choice in the public education sector for their child. I have 2 daughters. They are very different. They went to different schools when they got to middle school and high school. And every parent deserves to have those opportunities in front of them. And so I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at all of you, and this is really wide and broad. So apology if my head's on a swivel here. But really just everyone on our team and the leadership in the buildings and listening to our teachers and others on our team.
Thank you very much. And it sounds like, if I understand correctly, that you basically engaged each section of the application with the experts in that particular area to address the questions or the prompt for
That is
each
correct.
area. Okay. I am kind of curious, and there's no right or wrong answer to this because it's not necessarily expected. But as you were writing the application, did you have with you a copy of the scoring rubric as well to use as a guide, or did you just stick with the prompts basically as they're listed in the application? Again, no right or wrong answer. Okay?
Well, what I can say is that we used the prompts in the application, and then on the back end looked at the rubric to ensure that we felt like we had satisfied the requirements of that.
Great, thank you.
May I ask a quick question? We did have an opening statement, and it just dawned on me that we did
I glossed right over that, didn't I?
It's okay.
I am so
No,
sorry.
I realized it just now that we didn't do that.
Now's a good time to ask it because that really wasn't my first question on the list of questions. That was just our intro. So, yes, please share your opening statement with us.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We approach this capacity interview with a clear understanding of what it takes to build and sustain over time a high-performing K-12 charter school. This work requires disciplined systems, strong leadership, and a supportive board, an effective school development team, and a relentless focus on academic excellence. Our mission is to provide a high-quality, rigorous K-12 educational experience that prepares every student for success in college, career, or life. Our vision is to create a school defined by strong academics, character development, and a culture of high expectations, where every student is known, challenged, and supported. We believe students rise to the level of expectations set before them, and our responsibility is to ensure those expectations are clear, consistent, and upheld across every community. We also believe that parents know what is best for their child and should have both a choice and a voice in their child's education. Our values are rooted in excellence, consistency, and responsibility. This is how strong school cultures are built, and research consistently shows that culture and clarity drive student achievement. A key differentiator in our educational design is our commitment to a research-based community model. We intentionally build structures that foster meaningful relationships between students, staff, and families. We know students learn best when they feel connected, supported, and held to high standards within a strong community. This work is not left to chance. It is intentionally designed through advisory structures, consistent communication, and authentic family engagement. We also recognize that all students learn differently, and our community model supports individualized instruction within each learning zone, ensuring that instruction meets the diverse needs of every student while maintaining high expectations for all. Equally important is our belief in building on the strengths of our teachers within our model. High-performing schools invest in their educators, and we are committed to developing, coaching, and supporting our teachers so they can deliver excellent instruction every single day. We focus on consistency in those expectations, clarity in instruction, and continuous growth, ensuring that great teaching is not isolated, but systemic across every community. Our development team, mostly comprised of educators, has successfully delivered a 62,000 square foot school facility here in Rutherford County and navigated private financing, adding additional student seats at no cost to the taxpayer. We also approach this work with a deep respect for Rutherford County Public Schools and a genuine desire to partner together. We see this as an opportunity to collaborate in high-quality public school options for families and strengthening outcomes for all students in this community. In closing, our application reflects research-based instructional practices, experience in school financing and development, and a commitment to build strong school cultures while driving student achievement. We recognize the high bar required for approval in this process, and we believe that our proposal meets the standard of quality necessary to be authorized. We are excited about the opportunity to continue to serve Rutherford County families and contribute meaningfully to this community. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rosales, would you take a minute to introduce yourself to the team too, please?
Sure. My apologies for being a little late. I had an emergency with the clients. My name is Frances Rosales. I am a parent with my fourth daughter. I have 3 kids. 3 of them have graduated from Blackman High School. And then I've got a 4th that started elementary school. Don't recommend anyone to start all over again when your 3rd one graduated. And I started on the school board, proud to be here. This is my 4th year.
Thank you. Okay, the first part of our questions are going to focus obviously on section 1 of the application, focusing on educational program design and capacity, okay? That's a key part of the application, as you know. So our first question kind of revolves around your daily schedule, which was very detailed for us and very thorough. And we're curious about your before and after care program and the fact that you have indicated in the plan that you would like to use this for additional remediation for students. Can you talk to us about what that looks like?
Sure. Ms. Ellison, would you like to come up and discuss the before care, after care plan?
Okay, the light is green, so I'm assuming that means I'm on. Good morning again. Some of the initial insights and thought processes we have around supporting additional student learning opportunities during the before and after care program include our language lab, giving our students who are English language learners an additional opportunity for some additional support with our language programming, whether that is through software platforms that they don't get to use during the school day because we want them to receive that face-to-face instruction, or with some of our staff who are bilingual and they have that opportunity for direct instructional times there, as well as homework support, content support, to really make sure that they have a full understanding. We also use some of our time through our before and after care for dedicated support for additional tutoring moments, whether that is with students who are identified as Tier 3 instructional students and multiple grade years below where they are currently seated in the classroom, or for students who are ready to move on and to receive that enrichment and forward-thinking opportunity for learning. So those are some ways our aftercare program can support the learning opportunities there, whether it be in small group, larger groups, or our English language learning lab to support learning there.
Along those lines, how do you encourage attendance at your before and after care programs for those students that might really benefit from those additional remediations and enrichments?
That's a great question. Mornings are a little bit tougher because we know students are just waking up, but for some students, they do prefer the morning time. For our afternoon, we try to make the learning opportunity engaging, but it's also about partnering with our parents so that they understand that we have this opportunity and we are excited to provide this opportunity. When we have started communicating in the various languages of our English language learners, we've been able to see the number of students who are participating in our language lab actually go up this semester. So that's been exciting. We also are trying to build in those in-house competitions, activities, and events that sometimes motivate students for academic success as well.
Is there a cost to parents to participate in before and after care programs?
For the before and after care program, yes. For our language lab, we do not charge our English language learners for that opportunity. We build that in to just the before and after care program itself. And for any of our specifically designed tutoring programs, there is no cost for that either.
Great. What about staff? Is this an opportunity for them to earn extra income? Do they get paid extra for serving in this capacity?
Yes, sir, it is. So we, of course, want our most highly qualified staff members to serve as tutors because we realize that students are going to gain the most from highly qualified teachers and from teachers who have had a great experience so far. So that is that opportunity, but we also provide that opportunity through having the opportunity to obtain additional paychecks, funding, supplemental pay. Thank you, Ms. Hage.
Excellent. Great, thanks. And just one last question about that. What do your participation rates look like percentage-wise at all of the schools in your network, in your before and after care programs?
I can say it fluctuates during the time of year. So it starts pretty high at the beginning. Around the holiday times, it begins to wane down. I would say at any given time, we've had close to 50%, but then probably minimum is about 25% of our kids participating in those programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. King.
Can you tell us how the community model has shown success with special populations within other schools in the Rethink Forward network and how you're determining that success?
Dana will answer that for you.
Hello. So first off, I was a previous principal of a community model school, A-rated, so I can speak to the success of the model when it is implemented with fidelity and the belief and intentionality is there from all. So when I talk and think about your question regarding special populations, I think about students that I've seen from my experience and from our schools who maybe came to us and were struggling to confide in a traditional classroom setting. And when we think about the community model, we think about the flexibility it provides and the opportunities for movement, for differentiation, for personalization, all through that traditional ELA block, we would say, 120-minute block, compared to just an intervention block, right? And so through that personalization, those students blending with their community peers, their entire grade level, moving throughout the community based on need. We have our master teachers of that area. I am an expert in writing, so I am going to push that writing instruction and differentiate that writing instruction for that learning area, whereas my partner is excellent in phonics and foundations. And so when those students go into that group, now they're receiving that foundational piece that they need, but group two, they might be receiving an extension activity because their phonics are there, right? So when we look at the community model and the intentionality, it really is to think about how can we support all learners? How can we ensure students that maybe aren't successful in one model can be successful in ours, because like we heard in the opening, no two students, no two brains are the same. And so this provides that intentionality and an experience for a special education student to receive opportunities to excel.
Thank you very much. So for the next, Dr. Lovelace is going to ask this next question, and it might be beneficial to you if you refer to, because it's about curricular materials, if you had it in front of you, if you had referred to table number 23 on page 81 and 82, that's kind of where the next question, couple of questions are going to focus. So Dr. Lovelace, please proceed.
So on table 23, could you clarify the information provided about your chosen curricular materials?
And I might need to clarify that even farther, but on the second page of that, in that final column that has a descriptor of the different materials, we're confused about some of that language. Like for writing, English and writing, science and social studies, in that final column that says their excellent science curriculum, we're confused by that wording.
What I can say, oh yes, that'd be great.
I can speak as far as our review process when we're looking at curriculum and adapting into the school year. So we look at the current curriculum that we have. We have a process where we get teacher input, we hear that feedback, and we work with the curriculum team, looking at what has been approved on the State Department website. We saw that, for example, social studies, new adaptations, new standards are coming. We currently use Gallopade, which is approved and on the website, but based on feedback from teachers and seeing results, they need something with more. So next school year, we'll be using McGraw-Hill. So that is what you see there. We did the same thing with science. We were using Discovery in the past, and so this year we started the implementation with the McGraw-Hill. With those labs, we're seeing more in-depth curriculum in that place. So to answer your question as far as what we have here, the description is just to coincide with, like, we're picking this curriculum because we feel that it meets the needs of our students.
May I elaborate on that?
Yes, please.
That when we were drafting this part of the application, we had English and writing, we had it all combined, and when we broke it apart, the language wasn't updated. That's a typo.
That's kind of what we thought, maybe.
Sure.
Can you provide an updated copy of this chart for us, please?
Absolutely.
That would ease our concerns, I think, in that area.
Yes, we apologize for that. That was, again, we were trying to get as granular as possible, and we had it all merged together for the writing and English and writing, and when we split it apart, that was just a miss.
And as a follow-up to that, I noticed that, can you give some more information about your chosen K-2 curriculum? There isn't one listed for K-2 math.
Be glad to.
For K through 2 math, we use iReady. Ready Math is the math curriculum.
Okay, thank you. And since we're talking about K-2, could you explain your foundational literacy skills plan for K-2?
Yes, so currently we have foundations that we have within our classes. We did meet with iReady because next school year they have updated their full curriculum to provide full foundational elements into a full K-6 curriculum. So right now we use Ready Reading, which focuses on the comprehension, and we use Magnetic Reading, which focuses on those foundational skills, phonics-based skills in K-2. And when you get to third grade, it focuses more on comprehension skills, still supporting phonics. And then phonics for reading for intervention. So they have a lot of different pieces right now that teachers are currently using. Next year, they'll have one iReady Magnetic Foundations book with everything in it, which compromises the foundational reading skills, goes into reading comprehension, and now they'll actually end their lessons with a full week of writing practice, which they didn't have before. So it's encompassing all of that, plus small group, plus EL lessons. So we'll have that next school year.
Thank you. And again, if you could please update that table 23 for us with everything possible that we would want to know, especially K2 and the rationale listed in those columns. As soon as you can, that would really help us in determining the final rating for that area, okay?
Absolutely. Dr. Lovelace, one quick question. Would you like more detail on the foundational skills literacy plan as part of this chart?
Yes, I believe that'd be great.
I'll take care of that.
Okay, shifting away from curricular materials a little bit, Mr. Garza has a question to ask about community input.
Could you please explain how you engaged with the community and conducted research to determine the need for this school in Rutherford County? Sorry. Yeah. Could you please explain how you engaged with the community and conducted research to determine the need for this school in Rutherford County?
So the initial part of our research began with our own in-house community and our families. We have been lucky enough to have 6th and 7th graders start to roll up and are looking forward to 8th grade. And the realization for them to realize that, hey, where are we going after 8th grade? That's where the initial research began. We had several members of our student population reach out to us in general saying, hey, is there ever going to be a high school option? Where are we going to send our students to high school? So when that information presented itself, we of course took it to our educational support team, and they then began engaging with the board. Is this the direction that we wanted to go? And how do we move about that process to ensure that we are providing quality options for students when they are ready to matriculate onto high school?
May I add a comment to that? One of the other pieces, and we've learned this from our schools in Nashville, I don't need to tell any of you how fast Rutherford County is growing and actually outpacing pretty much everyone in the state in that area. What we know is that when that happens, schools get bigger and bigger. And what we know and what we've learned from one of our high schools we have in Nashville is not every student can thrive in 2,200, 2,600 high school, student high school. And so part of the choice here is for parents that want to stay in the public sector, but really need a smaller footprint of a school for their student. We all believe strongly that parents know best what works for their child. And so in addition to the families that we have already who had expressed interest and really want our model to continue, we also feel like a smaller choice option adds to kind of the menu for Rutherford County parents in a way that may not exist elsewhere.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
If I may also, just to flesh this out, we've been working in and through this community now for about 5 years. And that 5-year experience has been invaluable. And truthfully, we've seen the community change, and the dynamism is not just a result of the increased population, but I think truthfully, the sophistication of the community with respect to school choice has elevated considerably. And we've seen that both through lived experience in our community, but also the board, our CMO team have engaged directly with members of your board, with members of the local legislative delegation, with persons in the community, and have begun to sense and understand why the attitudes towards school choice are opening up. And that's not just true in Rutherford County, by the way. That's true in counties all over the state. I think the number now is in excess of 20%. In Nashville, for example, of students who attend a choice school of some kind in some setting. And not just, I mean, the magnet schools, but I mean either a charter or taking advantage of the voucher pilots. So we know that parent interest in the model has grown, and we know that because we're here. And we've also learned, and I think taken to heart very seriously, the lessons that truthfully we learned in our first application process. That was super valuable for us. And some of the persons in this room were a part of that. Many of you are new to it from that era. But one of the things that we learned in that process was it is a lot better from the board standpoint. It is more reasonably calculated to lead to success if we are engaged in relationship and community at the beginning. And I just can't speak to how, from a research standpoint and from an understanding standpoint, how much that matters and has mattered to us. And one of the things I will tell you about Rutherford County that we learned is Carline is super important. And we had to learn that lesson the hard way. And we should just be very honest about that right up front. You will see, and you have seen, a lot of learning already take place in the 2 years that we've been operating at RCP. And those lessons you'll see brought to bear much more quickly from day one here. And I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to shift gears again and kind of get back to talking about special populations just a bit. Dr. Ralston?
Sure, thank you. I just have two quick questions for you. The first one is, what is the contingency plan if the school fails to secure sufficient staff to serve the students with disabilities and the ELL population?
I'll probably bring our HR person up, but what I can tell you is we have secured strong partnerships with external organizations if we were to have that staffing issue, because what we know for certain is we take our responsibility to serve students in alignment with their IEP, ILP, ILPD, very, very seriously. And so what we do is we do a number of things to attract teachers. We also support teachers who wish to add an additional endorsement to an existing license, because in our perfect world and where we're really moving to is for all of our teachers to be duly endorsed, either in EL or SPED, so that in addition to their content expertise, they also have a second level of endorsement to serve students in that way. Eric, do you have anything you wish to add?
Well, first, it would be bad for me as the Senior Director of HR to not staff that appropriately, so that would be awful. Second, we are part of a larger network, so we can draw on our team, as well as just not the network team, where in any educational situation, a network or a district team, the priority is students first. So we would leave our quote offices, and you would push in, you would serve students. So we first of all have that priority set. Second of all, we've been very successful in building our own and recruiting from within, inspiring teachers that do a great job with a particular grade level or with students to spur them towards taking on special populations. Our recruiting efforts frankly started for next year in our current schools with me going in and recruiting with our own faculty and asking, hey, we want you to come back, but question number one, are you coming back, which is the correct answer. The second one, you get bonus points by saying, yes, I'm coming back, but I'm interested in working with special populations. How can you help me to achieve that? So we sponsor our own teachers to be able to achieve endorsements, either through the coursework. We have worked directly with Trevecca Nazarene University for their EL endorsement programs. We sponsor that, and teachers commit to a period of time to be able to teach through that time to achieve that. Of course, now with the update in code and state board rule, to be able to take that EL assessment especially for experienced teachers or teachers that were endorsed in other states that did now have to go through the entire endorsement process but can test into EL. And the other part is not as easy, but that process of helping folks to move towards special education. So going through that endorsement process, taking and passing that praxis at the conclusion of their preparation with that, and building that capacity from within. And with the 2027 start, we're hoping that we are building our own capacity within to be able to move experienced folks from within our own network into roles to be able to have that continuity of service as well.
And I just have one thing to add. I know that, and I apologize I wasn't there with you, but I know several of you were able to visit the campus earlier this week. And one of the real things that I love about the model is that students are served within their community. And so as much as feasibly possible, we don't want kids to be pulled out of their learning community. And so it's part of our model to have kind of not only that support built into the general instruction, but in addition, some of those, that 60 minutes of direct instruction, for example, for English learners would happen in one of the kind of little communities on the end. And so it's part of our model to have that dual endorsement and really to just embed that within the regular instruction.
That's great, thank you. I just want to follow up to that. So the grow your own, and we obviously as a district do that as well. I mean, we wholeheartedly believe in our people, and we want to support them. But there's times when special education's a hard to fill area. So do you have any contract services as a contingency plan, SLP contract services, site contract services, things like that?
We do. We currently operate using contracted services for some of our services, OT, PT, speech, psych services, that's all contracted. We also have a contract that ever says if we do have these hard-to-staff positions, that they support that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. The second question I have, because I went a little rogue on the first one, is please explain how the school would meet the needs of the advanced learners with special education support. So those advanced levels of special education support that are needed for the students. And I'm kind of referring to, I'd like to refer you to just one page on in your application. It was on page 99 that was discussed. So I don't know, Dr. McCann, can I read the quote? Is that okay? So the quote at the bottom says, Rutherford Prep's admission policy welcomes and encourages the enrollment of students of all learning profiles. But 3 paragraphs up, it says, however, a continuum of service is not provided to students who the IEP team determines that the grade level learning community is not the LRE for a student. So help me understand what that would look like for the students who may apply to your school, want to come to your school, but yet they have a larger service plan that is needed.
I'll just say, those of you who saw the facility, remember the end zone.
All right, so from our full continuum of services and supports, first and foremost, we do accept any student that comes in through the application process as long as they are within the geographical boundaries. And as part of that application process and registration process, we do not know who those students are until they finish that process. So we may not know what exceptionalities we are receiving, and sometimes as a school, you may not be prepared for that initially. But once we have an IEP, it is our job as a public school and servant leaders to make sure that our students have what they need. So with that, if we receive information that our student services need to support students of exceptional disabilities, whether it is medical need or cognitive need, vision, anything like that, we work as a team to support that we have those additional services and supports within the full continuum. For the most part, as Ms. Hage said, most of our students currently fall within the means to be able to be supported within inclusion model in the classroom. But as that changes, because we know student populations changes, it is the expectation and priority of our student services team to make sure that we are meeting those needs. Those services may be met through a variety of opportunities, whether it be a smaller group resource segment in one of our end zones where they are working on specific goals. It could be something that is built into our community plan from building out opportunities to teach life skills and to support students through that process. So we want to make sure, again, they have that full continuum, which then leads us to the opposite end of the continuum with students who are performing well above grade level or have those higher expectations and needs. And for us, we are able to accomplish that in a variety of ways. Not only through just your general differentiation platforms within the classroom, but we are also moving towards implementing Cambridge and our ACE accreditation program, which is our Advanced Innovative Community of Excellence. Within our advanced or ACE programming, we offer a multi-grade program for our students in kindergarten or first grade through fifth grade, and then a separate program for our middle school students. This platform actually gives us the opportunity to move at a faster pace, to do more project-based learning, more global thinking through the Cambridge platform. We are very lucky in that we are a Cambridge accredited school, so the eventual path will lead all of our students to those great experiences. But with our students who are within the ACE program, it leads them on the path to receive high school credit courses by the time they are in middle school, and then potentially those further advanced courses when they are in high school.
Thank you.
Okay, just some clarifications. I think the reason why we're asking that question specifically is your application, the way it reads, and it says, RP will partner with its LEA to ensure each special education student is served in accordance with federal, state, and local requirements. In instances where the LEA is better positioned to provide highly specialized services, i.e. high need, RP and the LEA will work collaboratively for LRE placement. And the way that reads from our end and sounds from our end is if you have a student whose needs are so high that you can't meet them, then basically you're going to rely upon us to provide those needs. That's why we asked that question, because that's the way it does read. And we want to make sure that if we approve your application, which this is a part of that agreement, that we understand what it is we're agreeing to, okay? That's why we asked that question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vaughn, you have a question?
Yeah, regarding the staff, I think that during your research you realized that Rutherford County has the highest performing system of anybody in the state of Tennessee, and it is very competitive in this county, much less anywhere else. We're nothing like Nashville, so don't even let that enter your mind that we're a completely different entity than what Nashville public schools are. Murfreesboro City schools and Rutherford County schools, you're not going to find any better schools. Now, the challenge is for y'all and everybody else is to get the staff. You know, it sounds good, but when the rubber meets the road, what are you going to do differently than what's being done to get these people to your school? Because if you don't have qualified teachers, it's not going to matter how good a program we talk about until it's like I say, the rubber meets the road. Where are you going to get those folks? And what is it you're going to do differently? And I got another question too. Okay.
You want to ask that question first?
Tell me how you're going to get the teachers you need to be successful.
So you talk about where the rubber meets the road. So I live here in Rutherford County, and we're honored to be able to have such a high-performing network of schools represented with that. Award-winning, competitive, and the opportunity to be able to serve in that community is an honor. And so working with Rutherford Collegiate Prep and helping to staff that from scratch was a challenge, but a challenge that we have knew that was coming and accepted. So staffing up for Rutherford Collegiate Prep already allows us to be able to understand the lay of the land. I just got off the road. Our team has been around the state and around the country, recruiting, specifically targeting colleges of education in national private universities, where students come from all over the country to go someplace else, but then targeting for folks that are coming back home to Tennessee. So over the course of years, we're nurturing relationships and partnerships to be able to draw folks to be able to come back here, which is an amazing place to live. We're drawing to Middle Tennessee. We're drawing to Rutherford County. Whereas at the same time, knowing that the market is difficult all the way around in education, one, we want to retain high-performing teachers, but two, we also have an opportunity to build from folks that are career changers. We want to hire highly qualified, experienced folks, and then around that, because of the community model, we have the ability to be able to have them be mentored up with that as well. So we partner with a national university to be able to help folks to be transition to teaching and acquire their teacher certification. That's been extremely helpful for us. Many of those are going on to complete their master's degree and achieve higher endorsements, and we're building the capacity from within. So our national recruiting as well as local recruiting strategy is in full force. We've already staffed one school here in Rutherford County, so that continuation of that opportunity over the next 18 months, if approved, for a 2027 opening is well part of our strategy as well.
May I add one thing to Mr. Lewis's comments? one of the things that we are all very aware of is that they're not knocking down the doors these days. The number of applicants we get are fewer and fewer. What we know from research is that 1 in 5 teachers leaves the profession within the first 5 years. And so part of what we believe our model helps us attract those teachers is what Mr. Lewis said. You are part of a teaching team, and so you get that day-over-day mentoring so that you become better rather than, and again, I'm a former high school English teacher, and I remember being a first-year teacher. I don't know that I would wish that on anyone because it's hard. And so having someone right at your side that can coach you through that, I think is one of the things that we offer. Believe me, I know Rutherford County's performance, and it is stellar. It is stellar, and that is not by chance either. We know how hard, what it takes to be a high-performing school and district overall. So when we think about what do we offer and how do we get those teachers, it's just a different experience. It's a different, more collaborative versus more, when I taught, it was you had 20, well, let's be honest, we had 30 kids and the doors were closed and you taught. I don't know that I got the appropriate coaching that I could have benefited from until I went and got my master's at night. And then I had more support to get through that. So in addition to all the recruiting, we really try to pair up those really strong teachers to help mentor along the way.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for your question, Mr. Vaughn.
Yeah, I've got a couple more things. I just hope that you take advantage of collaborating with Rutherford County Schools. We've got some of the very best, and we're open to collaboration. And it's a two-way street. Everybody can always learn from each other. One other question. The lady talked about the lower end, talked about the phonics part of the, boy, I think is that going to be a mainstay in your program, phonics?
While she walks up, I will assure you it is. 100%, we believe that how you teach students to read and children to read is based on those foundational skills and the phonics. And my goal is that all of our students read by the end of 3rd grade, and I can assure you that will remain a cornerstone of our model. Sorry, Dana.
Yeah,
Still your
phonics.
thunder there, but.
Yeah.
And we also make sure that the teachers take all state trainings when it comes to the science of reading, the 360 reading trainings that are required. And our professional development is throughout the school year. We work with the principals to develop their agendas for PD days, for summer planning. We're facilitating alongside with the schools to make sure any improvements that need to be made from year to year after working together and refining and looking at data will adjust. So the foundational, the phonics piece is definitely a huge focus for us.
Okay. One other thing, too. We talked about project-based instruction. Can you expand on that a little bit? What exactly does that look like?
Sure. So one of the highlights of being a Cambridge school is that we have access to the full Cambridge curriculum. And what we say is all students are Cambridge learners. And how we do that is through our Global Perspectives Challenges. So Rutherford just had one recently, and we have quarterly challenges where students are given down from kindergarten through 8th grade a challenge, a task, a prompt. And they have to, working in partners, working in groups, communicating, developing those critical thinking skills, come out of the end of that task with a solution. How are we going to conserve water? How will we look at transportation issues, let's say? Not just here when we think about the younger grades, but when we get into the older grades globally. And that's that global piece that you heard Ms. Ellison say. So our Cambridge program really enhances project-based learning to ensure it's at least happening quarterly for all learners. And then we work with the teachers through our curriculum maps to ensure at the end of units, we're also seeing projects throughout the year.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Pontipi?
Thank you. I'd like to circle back to the ELs and their service time. So according to your application, ELs will receive their service time during the success model and the success block, rather. And that's only 30 minutes, and they're required 60 minutes by law. So how will you address that?
Thank you for the help, the microphone guy in the sky. Appreciate that. It turned green for me. Part of the implementation of that is during the success model, because we also have an RTI model as far as that extended school day that we have there. In the application, it does plainly say that the 60 minutes as well, and I was trying to flip to that reference so that it's not just referenced as part of EL support in the schedule of being the success model, but yes, the application does clearly state and understand that the 60 minutes is required in making that possible, and Ms. Ellison is the expert in how that's implemented currently in their schedule.
Thank you for asking that question. So this has been a new experience for me, coming from an area that did not have as large of an EL population. So I've really enjoyed learning that and being able to implement successful models to do that. The first place that they earn their opportunity is in that success block, and that is with specific instruction in their English language learning. As we move throughout the day and as we grow our team so that we have those endorsed teachers in the model, they will receive that dual instruction within the community. However, if we have a community that does not have an EL endorsed teacher yet, they receive their full component of time in the morning or in the afternoon, whenever that success block is, in addition to additional supports through science and social studies time. They never miss their full English language arts block or anything along those lines. And we do not necessarily pull them from our RTI intervention block, because they also may need additional intervention supports at that point in time. So success block is just the initial 30 minutes, and then it could duly wrap around depending on the grade level schedule to flow into a portion of their day when they are, the rest of the community would be on technology, so they're not missing direct instruction.
Thank you.
You did briefly mention afternoon or morning. Are you referring to before and after care, or just during the instructional blocks?
Just the school day itself, just the school day itself.
Thank you for that.
Those direct ELL services happen during the school day, and then we would supplement with those additional opportunities for the language lab in the morning or afternoon.
Great, thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Smith, before you ask this next question, I do want to get some clarification, because it may speak to the relevancy of these questions. Is the plan, Mr. Lewis, is the plan still for you to serve as the principal of this upcoming school, as is indicated from what we understand in the application?
Mr. Lewis would serve as the executive director as we hire the staff for Rutherford Prep. So it's basically the same as the principal, but he will then oversee the principal once the principal is hired for that building.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification, because with our different charter schools right now, sometimes the head of school is called principal, head of school, executive director. So we just need to understand, we just need clarification on what that role exactly is. Mr. Smith, go ahead and you can ask those questions anyway.
Thank you. And sometimes as a school principal, you get called other things as well. So just
Lots of other things.
make sure everybody's aware of that, depending on the day. So, Mr. Lewis, I'll direct these questions to you. We talked a moment about attracting teachers. Can you talk to us about your track record of retention rate specifically? And can you tell us a little bit more about your the mentoring approach beyond the pairing for mentoring teachers? How do you retain the teachers that you do hire?
Well, fortunately, we have brilliant people like Dana Morales, our professional development team, with Jessica Mercadante and a group of folks that are experienced educators that push in to support the school-based staff to provide not only the pre-service so that all of our teachers, all of our staff, especially in a new school opening, we plan and budget in 3 weeks of pre-service, which is almost 3 weeks longer than traditional pre-service of several days. After the first year opening, we always budget 2 weeks of pre-service in every school year for professional development, curriculum development, team building, and of course the unique nature of the community model takes more, we provide more time to be able to understand and work together as a team. Typically, as teachers, we would go to our classroom, close our door, and you're working in isolation. The community model itself is designed to be able to provide that extra level of support that teachers are never as isolated. To take a restroom break, you don't have to prop your door open, go next door, ask your neighbor, and then someone stand in the hallway. You look left, you look right, you work with within the collaboration of the community and the team that you have. Additionally, the budget for the elementary grades accounts for an instructional assistant, so that additional support that's part of that model of a non-certified person in the room along with them. Then the PLCs are essential. The NEI staff pushes in to support not only the school leaders as instructional leaders of the building, the instructional coach as the student population grows and the budget supports with that as well. You have those additional administrative and coaching supports to drive that mentoring, that PLC aspect of what's going on for the instruction as well. On top of that, it's just our teacher incentives. We've historically had budgeted for our bonuses, so recognizing teachers for achieving student growth, recognizing teachers for building student proficiency, but also the idea of teachers being at work. It's hard. We work in a petri dish. So teachers, educators, we catch everything. So it's really difficult to maintain health, wellness, and maintain that instructional continuity. But as we develop and promote that, we had provided an attendance bonus even for our teachers as well, promoting those skills and desire to be able to be present and to be that mentor for students to be able to meet their goals as well. The retention rate of a new school, especially with a new school in a new community, is challenging because you're drawing into something new and everything's new. And again, our team discusses this. You only do the first day in the first year once. And that's always the most challenging time in building a school. Fortunately, I've had the fortunate opportunity and survived it of opening previous schools and other jurisdictions as well. And school opening is tough. So with RCP, we've opened. So we haven't had that same shock to the system in relation to the challenge of teacher retention in years after you typically would have in that first year or would expect and hopefully to overcome in that first year. So we build that, and with having a network of schools side by side, we tend to have far less struggle with teacher retention when you're building from each other. The first school that I opened from scratch, we opened K7 with 1,100 students day one. We did not incubate up. And as a Florida principal for 10 and a half years, we do school and we do school big. And it would be great to run a small school, but that's not how those schools would run. To come in and to build that, I had the opportunity to draw from previous schools and colleagues to have a percentage of the teaching population and leadership from other schools already knowing the model.
Eric, may I add a couple things to that? Do you
Absolutely.
mind? A couple of other things to add to that on what we know. We have a mentoring program at Nashville Collegiate Prep where we've paired one of our more experienced teachers with a brand new teacher, in addition to being in the community model. And so that mentoring program has been very beneficial because once you get a teacher, we know keeping them and making sure we're meeting their needs. What we have also learned is that this new generation of teachers coming up, they want to know what their growth opportunities are looking like. They want to have those conversations. And so making sure that we have those opportunities for growth and advancement while they're still staying in the classroom. The other piece of that is we know what educational research would tell you is that working conditions matter. And so making sure that we meet their needs. And a lot of that happens from the CMO level. We handle a lot of the compliance pieces, some of the other kind of operational pieces, so that teachers really can spend their times planning for students. Our job is to take things off of their plates so that they can not feel overwhelmed. It's overwhelming enough these days, but really trying to be intentional about allowing them the time to teach and us kind of shouldering a lot of that. And our centralized staff makes that happen as well.
So that portion of the application, page 140 in that area, that those merit increases that we build into the budget, those recognition programs that we celebrate teachers, our new teacher of the year, our team member of the year, and our teacher of the year, as well as just implementing sound research-based retention strategies to be able to connect with our teachers and then build them over time, as well as the opportunity to sponsor those endorsements, master's degrees, and other types of things that has really helped us to maintain our highest performing teachers.
Okay, thank you. Kind of a follow-up from growing teachers to growing students. Can you talk to us briefly about your track record of improving graduation rates among high school students?
Not necessarily mine, but in my experience working with our schools in the past, the graduation rate is kind of the crown jewel of what Sherry and I, over the years, have been able to not only make as a priority, but also our experience in working with turnaround academies, where graduation rates were abysmal and sad, to be able to create and design a program, a sense of belonging and buy-in from students to not only finish, but achieve with that as well. And then even more recently, more specific data that Dr.
So
Carney
a couple of things to add to that. First of all, we at our new school that we built in Nashville the last 18 months, we don't have a graduating class yet. We are adding a year as we go. So next year we'll have them as juniors. And so 2028 will be our first graduating class there. NEI operates one other school in Nashville that has been in existence and has had graduation rates, and their graduation rates were incredibly high. Smaller footprint of a school, maybe about 60 graduates, but certainly one where the graduation rate was 98%, 99%, et cetera. The biggest key for us and what we know is that transition from 8th grade to high school, and kids that get behind that freshman year are 3 times less likely to graduate. And so as we're thinking about what happens at that moment, we have really instilled credit recovery immediately. And that is something that happens that we build in almost immediately to try to keep those students on track. It's a more mobile population, and so really making sure, and anytime you get a student that's supposedly a senior and they're 12 credits behind, someone hasn't done the hard work on the front end, and so it's not what's best for kids to do that, and so really focusing on that immediate recovery is how we really push those high graduation rates and making sure we're just setting kids up for success. And I'm pretty excited about some of the recent changes in Tennessee about some of the CTE pathways, and really excited about what that could mean for hopefully incentivizing students to stay in school.
Great.
Can you tell us what school that is that you were referring to that has a 98, 99% graduation?
Knowledge Academy at the Crossings.
This is not really a question, just a request that I have. If you would just double check for us both your team member tables in the application and compare that to the resumes and make sure we have resumes for everybody, and everybody we have resumes for is listed on the team list. We had trouble matching a few of those up. Nothing major, but if you would double check that for us and make sure all that information is provided, that would help, okay?
Absolutely. And if there is one, would I send that to you, or would we resubmit?
Yeah, you can just send it to me, and I'll get it out to everybody.
I will.
And I'll
Thank
add
you.
it to the application, okay?
Appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Section 2, the operations plan and capacity, okay, and talk about that. And I'm going to start with Dr. Ogundokun down here with our first question.
Thank you. Yeah. So my question is, could you please explain your decision not to include a parent representative on your governing board as required by the application prompts?
Did you hear that question fully?
I want to be sure I understand the question. Is it regarding a parent representative on the board? So we have a parent representative on the Rethink Forward board, and as we bring the school online, we will add a parent representative from Rutherford County. Since the school is not online yet, we have not brought as yet a Rutherford County board member on as a parent, but we will.
Thanks for clarifying that. It's just that the application says on page 130, rather than adding a representative to the Rethink Forward board, Rutherford Prep will solicit and seat a 6-member parent advisory group.
And that will continue as well. The parent advisory group is something that we feel strongly about, and that way more parents can be part of the process.
Right.
And that's really what we're trying to do, is make sure that all grade bands are represented. And so what we have found, and we're thrilled about, is a very interested parent group, a body that wants to be part of that. So we have had other discussions about adding others to our board as people filter off of our board, but we haven't had that happen quite yet. And so we will be having a 6-person advisory board, and then as our board turns over, would have those other conversations about adding a specific parent seat there.
Okay, yeah, the prompt says specifically, describe plans to add a parent representative to the board within 6 months of the school's opening. And then your response is rather than adding a representative to the board. So if that is not the case, if you are planning to add a parent member to the board, it needs to be indicated in the plan.
Thank you. We'll supplement that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That would help. Mr. Smith?
Yes, can you please explain how you plan to provide a competitive salary and benefit package, and how you will budget for these benefits as they're not currently provided in the submitted budget?
So our current staffing plan and budget and what is represented in the application models, what we have at Rutherford Collegiate Prep, matches and to an extent follows the Rutherford County Schools starting salary within the range of when collective bargaining occurs, and changes occur with that as well, because that's always a different cycle than typically what we're having on that as well. So our intent is to remain competitive in the district. Where we don't have as much competition is that 10-year plus range of experience, and that's also typically not folks that are looking to make a change. They're entrenched in a system, a culture, and in the leadership structures of their schools or their district with that as well. But again, with our bonus structure that we build into that process and the annual merit increases that are also built into the budget, our teachers typically have, within that first 5 years, the opportunity to meet or exceed what is typically the traditional district steps in the salary bands as well. Again, hoping to recruit and retain our highest performing teachers by having them banking on themselves and the opportunity to have those merit increases as well.
Thank you much. And I know it's hard to predict who's going to earn a merit pay bonus and how to budget that, but it's not reflected anywhere in the year 1 to 5 budget. Another concern that we have is under your benefits plan, years 1 to 5, there's no Social Security budgeted, no health medical insurance, no dental insurance, no vision insurance, no life insurance, no pension and benefit is listed. I'm looking at the document right here under benefits plan, your year 1 to 5 budget. I'm kind of curious as to how that is going to be planned for.
Let me give you to our budget representative.
And feel free to correct me if I'm misinterpreting something. I just see zeros in all these columns and I get a little concerned.
Corbett, he's pulling it up.
Sure. The document I'm looking at is the Rutherford Prep Attachment 9 Operating Budget Template, and I'm on the Years 1 through 5 Budget Plan tab. No, I'm sorry. I think I'm on the, let's see, make sure I'm on the right. There's the minimum, years 1 to 5 staff counts. Yes, year 1 to 5 budget plan. Or the staff counts plan tab is really where I'm seeing it. Under the section benefits planned. Now, unless you printed a copy of the budget itself, it may not be in your application. It was only submitted as a spreadsheet, as an attachment. It's attachment 9.
Yeah, I've pulled it up here. So the template on this one did not self-populate. We put the percentages up there off to the side. So I will take this and I'll revise that and I'll get that back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Lee.
There's some, under your section 44, discussion of a third-party developer, and then also they paying rent, and also some conversation about meeting with 4 potential construction partners. Has any of that been narrowed down to who you would be considering to use at this time?
Yeah, so we have, as we just construction for Rutherford Collegiate Prep, we have had conversation with some folks that were involved in that process with our GC, and we then had, well, most likely would be who we would utilize in that process, and then they, which was our Ryan Construction Companies was the GC for that project, and then we utilized local subs for all of the work there, and we would utilize that same process here for all of the work, so that we are looking to once again utilize folks locally for doing all the work for all the different entities within the subcontracting.
Don't go far, because I assume you're probably going to answer my next question too. So, there's on 141 discussion of the floor plan. There's a lot of discussion about K2 and K3. Are you looking at building another facility that is multi-grade? Because this application is more for the upper grades.
So this application is for K-12, and so then that square footage that's there, you had the opportunity to visit Rutherford Collegiate Prep the other day. So the footprint for the K-8 portion of the building, this is modeled after that, 62,000 square feet, and then we have the additional square footage that's contained in here around what the 9 through 12 component would be to add those other facilities that are not currently contained at that building in order for this to be K-12. It is expected that this would be either one large building, all continuous, or potentially could be 2 separate buildings side by side, but within the same property or very closely located together, is the way it's modeled.
Excuse me, this is relatively minor, but in the description of the floor plan on that same page, we were just kind of curious. In one paragraph, it says grades K-5 will be on the first floor, 6-8 on the second floor, 9-12 in the section of the building on the opposite side of the gym. But then in the next paragraph, it says grades K2 only will be in the first floor, and on the second floor will be grades 3, 5, and the middle school.
Okay.
Kind of curious as to the discrepancies between those two, where that.
So there's a
grade-
couple of different floor plans, and that's probably what it is. So the floor plan that you walked through the other day is the one that's the K2 on the bottom,
Right.
3, 5 up, and then the middle school. So we do have a couple of different variations there. So we can take a look at that and ensure that, once again, right now, as you know, facilities is always one of how the layout of the land looks, what it looks like. So there's so there are really two different variations of what the building could look like, as the site plan a lot of times can dictate how that is. So I can clarify that in language to show that that it is, once again, we have a couple of different options for what that plan looks like, but that's what that is.
Thank you, that would help. Yeah, especially if you can just identify which one is ideal for you.
Absolutely.
That's what we'd love to know.
Walk through the
Okay.
ideal one, so that's easy to do.
We did enjoy, by the way, walking through your facility the other day, those of us that were able to tour that. And thank you for that opportunity. It was very revealing and very helpful to us, too. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Goulian.
All right, you guys have done a really good job of talking to us about the retention of teachers and professional development needs. But my question kind of pertains to, how do you guys elicit or survey your teachers to find out what those unique needs are?
Yeah, so we survey our parents, our teachers, and our students twice a year. So we do one survey in the fall, and basically that's kind of our baseline for the year, and that's where they can, and it's based off of Gallup research, so it's the very specific buckets of the Gallup survey. And so they give us feedback. We look at that feedback, we roll it up, we do a presentation in a faculty meeting around the data from the students, the parents, the teachers. We do a presentation to our board about that baseline data. And then the teachers actually help administrators come up with kind of their top 3 priorities based off of that feedback. And we put a plan in place, and then in the spring, when we survey them again, we look at the data and say, did we meet our 3 priorities with the plan that we put in place? And so that is, like I said, we do that with our students starting in 4th grade, and then we do that with all teachers and staff, and we do it with our parents. And we send that information out, and we discuss it in our State of the School focus groups with our families.
I got a question about that. Professional development is basically focused on what the needs are of your teachers to get them better, to meet the academic needs of your kids. And I understand the survey you're taking, but I'm not sure it addresses what really professional development, as far as I know about it, what all is focused on, what determines what you're going to do your professional development on. And some grade level teachers need different professional development. Not everybody needs the same thing. So what type of plan do you have for that?
So in our preschool in-service, we divide it out with returning teachers and new teachers. New teachers start earlier than returning teachers. And then the returning teachers piece, we actually look at their performance evaluation from the previous year, and we give them choices based on what they think they need. The administration might also pick 1 or 2 that they think they need. So there's lots of differentiation, not only for our students in their classrooms, but also for our teachers and their professional development.
That'd be interesting to see what you think they need compared to what they think they need. It'd be good information.
If I could just add a couple of things here as the building leader of RCP down the road. For us in determining our professional development, it ebbs and flows with what's happening in the building. So part of that determination is made based on our walkthrough feedback. If we see a specific area of need, whether it be classroom management, instructional strategies, higher order thinking, cooperative learning, any of those things, if it's coming back low on our walkthrough data, then that tells us we need to provide an opportunity for enhanced learning. Is that in a PLC, a professional learning community that meets weekly? Is that in an after-school faculty meeting? Is it for our PD days? When it comes to our out-of-school PD days, we also look at what have we adopted newly for the school year? Is it curriculum that needs further instruction? Is it bringing those providers in to really help us dig into the data itself? For me personally, as a building leader, one of my focus points is also those one-on-one conversations with teachers. Where do they want to grow in? Because I see some things, but our teachers may see some other things. And it's really about finding that balance so that they are learning and growing in a well-rounded opportunity. One of the goals that I have for professional development as well is that we have choice PD days. So 1 week a month or 1 day a month, that afternoon learning opportunity is a choice PD day. Again, teachers may not know what they need to choose, so they might need a little bit of support in choosing the PD option for that afternoon, but it also gives our other teacher leaders that opportunity to share their expertise with others in learning better their craft.
And one of the things that she has put in place is during that PD choice time, she meets with the new teachers, because again, going back to her point of they might not know what they need, so she takes the new teachers to make sure she's filling in for them.
Great, thank you so much. Dr. King?
You've talked about how you're going to grow and mentor teachers. What evaluation model will you use to evaluate their effectiveness?
We have developed what we call the TFET. It is approved at the state. We go through that process, and it is aligned back to that Gallup research that I referenced earlier, as well as Robert Marzano's framework. So we have developed a rubric around teacher evaluation, and then that drives, as Ms. Ellison said, that drives their PD, their support, their coaching, their mentoring.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lee?
Yes, can you give a little additional information on the transportation plan and the 2 to 4 mile radius that's described?
Yes, so what we always do is we take a survey from parents who ask at the application time, they're able to say whether or not they would request transportation. And then we target that 2 to 4 mile range as far as the sweet spot for transportation. But I will tell you that whenever we go to do this in the beginning, we go and we budget for a certain amount of buses on the front end. We usually are looking at going and saying that we're going to have a 35 to 40% ridership is usually kind of where we're at in the beginning. And that range will expand based on being able to fill those buses. So we don't leave seats empty. And also the geography, what we have found from Rutherford Collegiate Prep is right now running bus routes in a way that you would kind of divide up. We're running kind of, the set schools in the middle, we're going in 4 directions. We're running 4 routes. And so we will go and utilize capacity to do that. So what you see in this application is that same type of philosophy around, once again, having the buses, looking at a ridership, and then going and filling those seats. And we expand out beyond the 4 miles if we can, if we have the ability to do so in order to fill the buses.
All right, so I'm going to ask the clarification for me. You're providing it in 2 to 4 miles and not outside 4 miles, or you're not providing it?
We start providing it outside of 2 miles and then we fill the buses.
That's what I was
Correct.
trying to understand. Are
Sorry,
you doing
yes.
it inside or
No,
outside?
Yep, outside of 2 miles. Start at the 2 mile mark and go out and then fill the seats.
And follow-up question on that. Do you door to door? Do you use a hub model?
We use depot stop model. So that's a hub model. I think is what you're referring to. Yes.
I did notice all the nice regular ed buses. Is there a plan if you were to have a student that with special needs that needed transport?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The contracted service that we utilize for that, and we've had that at some of our other schools. We don't currently have that at Rutherford Collegiate Prep. But once again, if transportation is required as a part of their IEP in a scenario in order for them to be able to attend, and in that case, there may potentially be a door-to-door that does occur at times as well, depending on how that's set up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about safety and student health. Ms. Rosales?
Thank you. Now, I didn't get to go with everyone last week, but I've been to your building, and it's a beautiful building. So my question is more in regards to the school resource officer. This is pertaining to what's on the application. I don't want to assume anything, but just for clarification and just to get feedback. What is your plan for providing a school resource officer, and how is that reflected in the budget? Again, it's just based on what the application stated.
The first and highest opportunity is with that MOU with local law enforcement, and then the state reimbursed funds exclusively to law enforcement agencies. Currently, Rutherford Collegiate Prep sits within Murfreesboro City, so Murfreesboro Police Department provides the SRO. We sign the MOU with them, and the funds from the state goes directly to them. Depending on the location of the campus, and if it's determined at any given moment, with the conversation with Mr. Lee the other day, with annexation and other things, where will it be? We'll know when the annexation process either comes through or not. If it's in the county, then we would hopefully work an MOU with Rutherford Sheriff's Office. If in the city, we already have that relationship with Murfreesboro Police Department. Without an MOU with any of those, then we would have to place into the budget that is not reimbursed, which doesn't currently happen in Rutherford County, where we would have private security to be able to have that additional layer of support. But again, that isn't our experience in Rutherford County, and it's not our experience with Murfreesboro City Schools, which is a credit to the local law enforcement.
Thank you for that clarification. We just didn't want to assume, just to make sure that we were providing a school resource officer, because I've been to the building and I thought I saw someone walking around that looked like a school resource officer. So thank you for
huge.
that.
You cannot miss him. He's gigantic. So.
Right, exactly. We just wanted clarification how that worked with the relationship with RCP. So thank you so much. Okay, so the other question is, who specifically will be charged with overseeing the school safety plan? Again, that's based on what the application states. We don't want to assume anything. We just want to make sure we get confirmation that there is going to be a safety plan and someone will be overseeing it.
We follow the state model with the safety plan, and fortunately for us, the experience of having that safety plan reviewed under the state template, Rutherford Collegiate Prep has had 3 reviews of that safety plan this year. According to everyone that has come in, that's never happened, but the Department of Education, we were randomly chosen to have that safety plan reviewed. Department of Homeland Security, we were randomly chosen to have that reviewed. And then and the current authorizer, the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission, also had an on-site review of that process. So we have been thoroughly reviewed with the current safety plan, meeting and exceeding all of those expectations, but also constantly receiving suggestions, updates, feedback to what's best for the footprint and the location of the school, and then meeting the needs of the student population. So in risk management, that's my shop and our team. We help and direct the writing and all of the MOUs. We currently have an MOU with Murfreesboro City Schools for transportation in case of needing to evacuate the campus and for relocation. The MOU with Murfreesboro Police Department, along with all of the AI-enhanced video opportunities that they would have access to in a critical situation that they would be able to access with that as well. And then they do that walk with us, not only in the initial construction phases, but also a review to make sure that their officers have great familiarity with that. Every year they bring several classes of cadets from the local training to walk through that. And at the beginning of the year, all of the SROs also walk the building because it's a unique model. So they're familiar with some of the established campuses in the area, but new campuses, they come and make sure that everybody has that familiarity, and we're thrilled to have their presence.
Thank you for the lengthy explanation. So I think we can concise it to say that that's something that your office will be responsible to do.
And take it extremely seriously.
Thank you so very much. And Oh, yes, one more, and it's just still back to the application, just for clarifying. The oversight of school health services, who will be managing that, and who will be providing, and how will you be providing services, meaning a nurse and things like that? So just, if you can clarify that, so that we can get specifics.
Likewise, we have an overseeing RN that provides the oversight to make sure that all of our systems and processes are compliant with that. So that works within our network of schools, and again, having the opportunity within the local area for multiple schools to be able to have enhanced services. Again, with risk management and oversight with compliance, we oversee that and then make sure that all of the screenings and opportunities and processes are followed to comply with medicines and any critical aspects that go above and beyond the day-to-day of health services in the school as well.
Thank you. Dr. McCann, is that something that they need to clarify within the application?
Yeah, that would help if you could a little bit. But I guess specifically we want to know, do you have school nurses in schools in your network? Are they full-time, part-time, or is it just overseen by an RN who trains the staff?
I would say in our K-8s, we typically have clinic assistants that are overseen by the RN. When we get into the high school area, we do add into the operating budget a school nurse.
What would you do if you had a student who required a full-time nurse, like they're on seizure medication or they have tube feeding, something like that?
Obviously, we would have to provide that.
We're fine with that? Okay, thank you.
And before we move on to the money, to talk about money, one clarification I would like, can you turn to page 153 in the application and read that last paragraph and clarify it for me, please? Page 153. It's at the very last page in that section, in section 3. Yeah, to put it mildly.
So I will take the swing at this one just from the board standpoint. One of the pleasures of serving on the Rethink Forward board is we receive a tremendous amount of information at each meeting, and NEI knows that that's our expectation, and they deliver on it. So at each board meeting, we review several metrics. We review staffing levels in the schools. We review academic benchmarking, if there's been a recent benchmarking experience. So we compare those both to the last benchmark, year over year. We receive financial data, of course, and a report on the school's performance against the budget that we have set, and also how that fits within the broader network. And we receive and insist upon a regular report each board meeting of the various compliance measures that our authorizer has expected us to meet over the previous period. That sometimes is the most fascinating piece of the report because it gives us greater insight into your expectations and the work, to be honest, that has to be done to meet those expectations. It is always considerable regardless of the authorizer, and it provides all of those data points provide jumping off opportunities for discussion within the board. Specifically on this last paragraph, I think obviously it's not fleshed out, but I'm just going to say from the board standpoint, when any of those data points are not what we hope they would be or not what we expect them to be, there's always a rigorous conversation in that board meeting, and I think Eve can more fully flesh out what we're intending to get to by this last paragraph.
Yes, so, yes, I apologize that had not been fleshed out. It was probably in the final stages of review and making sure you answer all parts. Obviously, it's implying to, like, if intervention were necessary, what could that look like? And what we know is we don't have a board that sits on the sidelines. We have great conversations that may result in more deliverables at their request. It may result in more frequent touch points. It may result in some kind of other plan for implementation, whether it's an organizational issue, an academic issue, et cetera. So we can clean that up as well. Be happy to do that.
Great, I'd appreciate
Thanks so
that,
much
yes.
for
If you could just clarify the language so we understand exactly what that says, that would help tremendously.
Yeah,
That's right. And if I may, I just refer you also to the sample contract between school and board in the back of the application. And that contract makes clear that this is an arm's length arrangement. It sets forth specific terms that could give rise to a default by the manager. For example, if we're not paying our bills. We've never had that arise, but it's important that it be there.
Great, thanks. Yes, we did note that that sample contract was very thorough and very clear, so thank you for that. Okay, let's move on to the final section. Well, not the final section, but the fourth section, budget and finance, okay, and talk about a few things. One area of particular concern for us as a team was understanding your thought behind the contingency model, where if you don't have adequate enrollment in the first year, your plan is simply to open with 100 ninth graders housed at the current RCP facility. Can you talk to us a little bit about how the feasibility of that and the logistics involved of having really two different authorizers engaged with one school, two sections within that school? We're having trouble wrapping our mind around that. Can you help?
Okay. So as we took a look at this, one of the most challenging aspects typically of opening a brand new charter school is the facility side. And so that would probably be the larger of the contingency initiators here would be, should there be any delay in locating facility or getting that established, you need a longer timeline. And so we have, as we looked at the contingency capability, having those existing students we have right now at RCP, they're going to be 8th grade. And as we talked earlier, we have families that are looking for that opportunity, being able to open up with a small 9th grade that those students can matriculate into, as well as we would be enrolling students for Rutherford Prep, we would be able to go ahead and accommodate, up to 100 students in 9th grade. And we have that middle school wing upstairs right now that our trajectory of growing Rutherford Collegiate Prep would still give us the space there to do that. And so while there would be a complexity around having two separate authorizers, we do have the capability of the board and the CMO being the same, working once again in lockstep as this would work together. We do represent in the year one contingency budget that Rutherford Prep would be paying a small amount of rent to Rutherford Collegiate Prep for that space, so that those budgets, because once again, we have two different authorizers here and two separate budgets that would be represented. There would be the capability of sharing services and sharing personnel across being able to deliver those services, as Rethink Forward is the board for both of those schools, and they're able to share those services across their continuum of schools. So, and then we would be able to then over at the end of that year one, then as you're able to see, then we would go and ramp up into a year two in a separate facility and be able to separate those schools out. Rutherford Collegiate Prep continues on its continuum of filling, while Rutherford Prep then begins its ramp up as a new school. At the same time, that also is, as we look for where land would be, we are definitely taking a look and prioritizing the opportunity to locate Rutherford Prep within a proximity to Rutherford Collegiate Prep. And so then you also get into the idea of being able to share operational items as well, such as transportation, et cetera. And then finally, Mr. Lee and I, as we walked the building the other day, I was able to show him we do have additional entrances and exits that go directly up to the middle school. They are alarmed, they are separate, but during arrival, dismissal, et cetera, we are able to literally have that space of the building kind of operate as its own area. And any type of concern there might be or thought around whether or not you have these ninth graders, be it whether or not they're intermixing with younger grades, et cetera, that's really not a concern with the way this building's laid out. It is actually for this 1 year consideration would work fairly well.
So I think you've been in the building, so you see how that piece would be segmented off. There is also a separate entrance exit, and then there could be a separate site plan for that drop-off pickup. Also, I would only add that it took us 10 months to build RCP, and I would add that from contract of school to delivery, it was only 16 months.
Right, we're well aware how quickly you put up that facility and the great job you did. And it's not a facility question, because you certainly have the room and the setup to accommodate that.
Right.
Our question, though, is again, from our standpoint as the entity that would be charged with monitoring just that ninth grade group, and you talk about shared expenses for personnel, shared expenses for transportation and other services. I'm assuming meals and everything like that could all be shared. Would that all be part of the rent that they would pay? Is that all going to be delineated separately? So financially, you understand that's going to be difficult for us to monitor it, let alone you reporting that.
Yeah, so that's why, once again, it's designed to have a lease, and it's expected to be a gross lease, as you said. So you would go and you would roll things into a gross lease type format where they would go and receive those services from Rutherford Collegiate Prep as a part of a gross lease.
Okay.
And the other thing I think it's super important to say here is we would want to sit down and walk through that with our authorizer and be extremely transparent about how that would work.
And if I understood you correctly, if we end up going with that scenario, you would utilize the current board for RCP as the governing board for this RP segment of ninth graders. It would not be the board that's indicated in your plan.
No, it's the same.
Or is that the same governing?
It's all
So
the
you
same.
have the same governing board for both schools?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's the same governing board, and then their intention is to work with NEI as the CMO. So the CMO governing boards would be the same, only the authorizers would be different for the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Lee?
What's the process and frequency for analyzing financial performance?
Yeah, so we have quarterly board meetings, but we do monthly reconciliations, updating cash flow projections and the forecast. And so we report monthly to the board. They get their update. We quarterly to the board at their board meetings, and they get their updates. We obviously do the annual audits as well. And then should there be a need to go and have any additional reporting, we have that once again on a monthly basis as far as how we reconcile both tracking expenditures and revenue. So, and we have right now, we can, all of our audits that we have received for the schools we've been operating, including all the Rethink Forward schools, have had clean audits, clean opinions, and we've had no issues there.
And like every charter school, those audits are publicly available on the state comptroller's website.
And I should say that goes for both the operating and the internal funds.
Great, thank you. Mr. Garza?
Oh, sorry. Can you please explain why the organization is forecasted to finish 25-26 with a change in fund balance of negative $668,506?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is for Rethink Forward, as you're looking, I know, at the roll-up budget. And they built up a fund balance before they went to expand Nashville Collegiate Prep and open Rutherford Collegiate Prep. And so they have opened 150,000 square foot of facilities in the last 18 months, with the expansion of Nashville Collegiate Prep being over 90,000 plus the athletic fields, and then the 62,000 square foot facility we've opened up at Rutherford Collegiate Prep. With NCP only being an expansion, it was not eligible for CSP funds. And so fund balance was necessary in order for them to be able to provide FF&E, technology, et cetera. A lot of the things, curriculum materials that you would get out of a year one startup plan budget, that you would get from the CSP. Rutherford Collegiate Prep did receive the CSP, but that was, once again, part of the board strategy. And it's also why strategically this school would open up. And you can see, looking at that same budget, if you look at the tab that has including RP, when it gets to the 2027 opening, you see that their fund balance is going back up. And then that is where they have the contingency in the plan that they can use across their schools if necessary as we move into Rutherford Prep adding into their portfolio.
Thank you. Dr. Ogundogu?
So looking at your application, we see that there are quite a number of diverse activities there that needs to be coordinated from a hub or like a central point. So is there a coordinator of operation position reflected in your budget to take care of those activities? And there are two questions here. And is there also a school level CFO, or are these planned positions?
So the structure for how we operate and do cash handling and funds and things at the school level, we have the school operations coordinator. We do that across a multi-school. So while it is done at Network, it is still, they do certain days at the school. They rotate between the schools. And so it is a way that we are able to leverage scale to handle those operations. And then above that, we have our senior business director for school operations, who then goes and works directly with them for things like payroll, cash handling, et cetera, on deposits. And then that rolls up to my office as the COO and overseeing the financials. So we do handle, and then we work all these through from a network level. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, by going and doing a multi-school approach to these functions that are really highly skilled and super important, we're able to hire people at a little bit higher rate of pay whenever you go and get scale, so that we can keep people longer in those positions, get very skilled folks to do that work. And that has a lot to do with why we've had those clean audits and why we're able to work through that as well, and we have stability in those roles. And then the other is, it does also provide opportunities for us to get in the schools on a daily basis and work through that. And that's why we have those offices. It puts our folks working through the buildings, and we are an organization that is, you heard Eve talk about it earlier, about taking as many of those operational pieces off the plates of our school-based folks, keeping our leaders in our buildings and our teachers focused on students, academics, and culture. And we try to go and pull operations and handle all that, and that's a part of that process.
So, what I hear is that at this point, there's no provision for those services in your budget.
So it's part of the management fee. So when you see, so that's already attributed as part of the services provided by the CMO. So then, once again, because it's rolled into those services, there's not an individual position on the school's budget. They don't pay double for the same services. It comes out of the management fee provided to NEI as the CMO.
And that's clearly spelled out in the application.
So, yeah, and so kind of I'll refer back to the contract again a little bit earlier when we talk about the things that the management company does and what we are responsible for. But that the day-to-day financial oversight, it's all included in the way in which we structure and provide the services for day-to-day financial oversight and operations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, you'll notice that one member of the team, Shannon Kaywood, who you've seen her name on the list of committee members. She's our special project accountant. She couldn't be here today. This question comes from her. I'm going to ask it. I'm not an accountant, okay? But these are questions that are important to her. It says, as they are not reflected in the narrative about the budget, how are you ensuring that basic accounting procedures are adhered to, such as purchasing plans, payroll, depositing of funds, obtaining bids and quotes, and the process for vetting and contracting with vendors? If you have policies for all that, could you just simply provide those for us?
We'll do that. Yeah, we will follow the same policies and procedures that we have with our other schools currently in existence, and we already have those. We'll get those to you.
Yes, thank you. If you would provide those for us, I think that would ease her mind a great deal, and ours too. Thank you. Okay, the final part is we're going to talk about the addendum, the addendas. You submitted 3 addendas, A, B, and C, which were all appropriate for your school. We appreciate that. I think, Ms. Rosales, they've already answered our question about the most recent audit findings, that we can get those from the State Comptroller's Office. They just were not included. The reason we asked that is in reviewing the annual authorizer reports from your current authorizer, none of those were listed. All the financial stuff was listed as pending. And we're learning ourselves in the charter world that those audits aren't always provided on a timely basis. So we just needed to know if we could access that. Is it on the comptroller's site at this, as fiscal year 25, is it on the comptroller's site, your audit report?
So I don't know if they've got them listed on there yet. They've been filed and submitted and uploaded. If they're not, I'm happy to provide those.
Thank you so much. Okay, now this is a big question that we have, okay? And because we did review not only the state report cards, but your annual authorizers reports as well. And state performance data and those reports indicate a pattern of not so strong academic performance for schools in your network. Can you provide us with an explanation for said performance and what actions you're taking to address those deficiencies?
If okay, I will be happy to start this out. I'll start with is no one is more aware of that than we are. And we don't shy away from the fact that we have a level 1 TVOS right now for year 1. We had a letter grade of D. Not anything that any of us think is okay. But what I would say is that 1 year of data does not in any way define where we believe and where we are currently heading. I think the most important piece is how we respond to that, and that is where we as a team, as a CMO team, as a board structure with our school leadership, we've already begun those changes, and clearly we're almost through our 2nd year. What I will tell you is that we have provided more training for our teachers. Teachers, we know, are the #1 within school factor to move the needle for kids. And so we spend a great deal of time talking to our teachers and providing coaching, weekly walkthroughs of their classroom with immediate feedback. We have invested more in coaches in the buildings day in, day out. We've also really focused on looking at our data and knowing where our kids are. And I'm just going to put it out there. All of our students were new on day 1. All of our teachers were new. All of our parents were new. And what I will tell you is that we benchmark our kids from the beginning because we had no point of starting. What I will tell you our benchmark said was that 75% of our students, when they walked in the door, were 1 grade level below. And 31% of that group were 2 or more grade levels below in reading. And in math, it was 86% 1 grade level below, and 29% of that group were 2 or more grade levels below. I am not in any way saying not on us. It is 100% on us. That's not lost on me at all. The response has been immediate, and it has been really focusing and narrowing in on the things that we know make a difference day in, day out for kids. That is more coaching for teachers, more instructional time for students, small group learning, and really teasing apart where our students are and where we need them to go. I honestly can tell you that what we are already seeing from our benchmark 2 data, from other things, is showing that those investments are paying off. Our teachers feel it, our parents feel it, our students feel it. I think when you're in that building and you see what's happening, it feels good. And the teachers are responding to that. And then, of course, that just trickles down to students. So it's really about being super clear on expectations and knowing that some of these things will take time. I wish I could sit here and say, we're going to be an A next year. What I will tell you is moving kids from low to proficiency, it does take time. What I can tell you is that I think we will see the growth and the hard work of the teachers, the leaders, the staff pay off as soon as we get our scores for this year.
Thanks. Nashville Collegiate Prep, have you had a 5-year interim review yet? Is that school that far along?
We are currently in
Oh, you're in the middle of that. Okay, I'm just curious.
that review process at the mid-year.
Gotcha.
And I can say from the board standpoint, and I think all of us know from our own experience, the first time we do something with a new group of people in a new place, it is challenging. And one of the things as a board member of Rethink Forward since the organization was founded, I've learned that this team delivers. And the proof of that is, I'd say, two places, really. At Nashville Collegiate Prep, there's no such thing as, a B+ or a B- on the state's metrics, but our academic outcomes have improved each year and are steadily improving at NCP now in its midterm review. And the same has happened at the charter school that NEI manages in Nashville, a school that just transitioned to the state portfolio. That school is now a TVOS 4 and is among the very highest achieving schools in the Antioch School Cluster in Davidson County. And NCP, likewise, is one of the highest achieving schools in its relevant cluster. We're on the opposite side of I-24 from Knowledge Academy, which in that community makes a big difference. So in relatively short periods of time, we've seen the process, and I appreciate the question. It's the question you should ask. We've seen the process work. And it works because, Eve didn't, I think, touch on this, but the model is different. And to be candid with you, it takes some time to find teachers who really sync with the model, and it takes some time to find families and students that understand how the model works for them. But it works. And we know that because the academic evaluations of our other schools tell us that each year the model works. It is different. And that is why I want to say, Mr. Vaughn, to some of your questions about collaboration, I think what this model offers to Rutherford County schools is purely a collaborative model. And what I mean by that is you can read the headlines at the state and you can see where policy is shifting. And it looks to us like the legislature is once again going to dramatically expand vouchers to maybe as many as 40,000 students statewide. That is going to increase conversation in communities to move kids out of public education altogether. Having a different and distinct and I would say successful model that offers students a choice and families a choice within Rutherford County schools is something I hope that the committee and ultimately the board will ultimately view favorably, because that is our goal. Our goal is to provide an option within the family so that parents who are committed to public education and who are in search of a new model that may better fit their child's need can find that. And I'll just say this one last thing. I came to this work as a parent, and I came to this work as a parent of a child who needed, frankly, different environments at different times in her educational experience. Because I had money, because our family had money, we were able to find private schools that at different times fit her needs. She's a graduate of an MNPS high school because at that time, that met her need. And so finding a model that is part of your portfolio that frankly encourages families to stay within Rutherford County schools I hope is a goal you'll take seriously. I appreciate the question, and I can only tell you, I wouldn't still be on this board if 3 years in we were knocking out ones and Ds.
Well, we appreciate your acknowledgement of the fact that the model itself is sometimes the challenge at finding teachers that are the right fit and students that are the right fit for that model. We appreciate your acknowledgement of that. But we would like to hear a little bit more, particularly about Knowledge Academy. Dr. Lovelace?
Absolutely. Could you explain your relationship with KA at the Crossing School and explain the rationale behind why MNPS declined to renew your agreement?
Oh, I'll take that. There is no relationship between Rethink Forward and Knowledge Academy. Knowledge Academy is a school that was originally chartered by MNPS, and when MNPS declined recently to renew that charter, then KA successfully appealed that denial to the State Commission, and it is now a State Commission school.
So they're not connected with you guys at all?
It is not connected with Rethink Forward at all.
What about NEI?
Yes, NEI was hired by the Knowledge Academy's board to operate that school as well. So we provide services to the Knowledge Academy's board for their school. We provide services to Rethink Forward for their schools.
Sorry, I'm just unsure about what that
There's a separate board.
Knowledge Academies is a completely different board. They're completely different people, and it's a completely different school.
So what is NEI's role with that school, or what was it?
Manage that school just like we manage RCP, just like we manage NCP. So we are a management organization. It's a very common model across the country. Florida, South Carolina, Texas, they all use a multi-operator model. It's less common here.
So you're the CMO for that school?
We're a CMO
Gotcha.
for KA.
Did you receive a copy of the MNPS resolution to not renew the agreement as the CMO? Did you receive a copy of that?
So that's interesting around what we have received and what we have not received over the last several years, but we were aware that they were not going to renew KA's charter, which put us into that appeal process.
Understood. Great. I get it. Thanks. Okay, one other question, though. Going back to NCP, can you talk to us a little bit about why they have earned the designation of Targeted Support and Improvement by TDOE and what you're doing to address that?
Can I just say one more thing about KA? We did not open KA. So I want to be really clear. The Knowledge Academy's board opened Knowledge Academies several years ago. When they did their strategic plan as a board, they wanted to see a different approach, which is when they brought in a different CMO. So that's when NEI came to working with Knowledge Academies versus NCP and RCP and RP. We would build those schools from the beginning up with the board.
How long have you been the CMO for that school?
Since 2019, we were engaged in 2019 late in that school year, so we really didn't, we started our work in April of that year, but obviously state assessments were already happening, things like that were already happening, so really it would be the 1920 school year when NEI was the operator of that school.
Will you continue to be the CMO even under the authorization of the State Charter Commission?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can I take a stab
Thanks.
at the TSI question you asked?
Please.
So Targeted Support and Improvement is a federal designation that the department sends out. We were, for the first time, identified as a TSI school for Black students. So the 4 accountability subgroups that Tennessee uses: economically disadvantaged, English learner, students with disabilities, and then the Black, Hispanic, Native American combined racial ethnic group. At the federal level, they disaggregate into probably 14 or 15 different categories. And one of the things that they do is they disaggregate what Tennessee uses as BHN, Black, Hispanic, Native American. And while we were not identified when it was combined, when they disaggregated that data, we were identified again for the first time for that group and that group alone. We met immediately with our authorizer. We also talked internally about what we were currently doing to look at the data differently, because I do think we think state level so frequently about state accountability. And so we made sure that our building leaders were tracking everything by those individual student groups. You know, I mean, you learn those lessons very quickly, and you certainly don't go back once you realize how, because I can tell you that our team tracks data every day, and now we track it a little differently to make sure that we don't have any blind spots as it relates to any of the groups of students that we have. But we will continue to track that data. We have updated our plan to address how we are doing that, and had worked very closely with our authorizer to get that in place almost immediately.
Great, thank you. Dr. Goulian.
The committee also noticed when we were looking at the addenda areas as not meeting standards for teacher turnover and student retention rates. Can you guys explain to us kind of how you're addressing those areas?
And just to be clear, that was a designation provided by your authorizer's annual report by the State Charter Commission.
So not meeting on student retention, teacher retention and student. Okay, so one of the things I would say on the teacher retention, and we had this conversation with our authorizer, as it's calculated a little differently in terms of what they include in retention rates versus how we had been tracking that. And I'll let our HR director talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things we look at frequently is how are we doing with retaining the teachers that are effective? Regrettable attrition, for example, being the differentiator there. As it relates to students, what we know, and it's been said a little bit around the model being the right fit, but what in our Nashville schools, and that would be what this report would be reflective of, is it's a highly mobile student population. And what we see sometimes are students that are there, they might leave, they might come back, and we do see that frequently. And so really important that we kind of immediately assess where those students are as they move in and out. But that is one of the things that, I think if you were to look at any school in that area, you would see a similar kind of mobility rate for students. And anything you'd want to add on?
But to be clear, the authorizer's report identified specifically also Rutherford Collegiate Prep as falling below the standards for both teacher retention and student turnover, or teacher turnover and student retention.
Understood. And I would say it goes back to what we've been saying and about that match. I think on paper it sounds good to say, oh, well, you're on a team of teachers, and some teachers love that. And some teachers are like, yeah, that's not for me. And sometimes it was the opposite. Sometimes what we saw wasn't serving kids well, and we made those decisions. And so that's part of the learning curve in operating a brand new model in a brand new market for the first time. We don't have yet, we will now, a little more of an understanding of how to talk about the model so that people walk in with eyes wide open, whether that's students or teachers. We'll be the first to tell you this model is not for every learner. It isn't. It's not for every teacher. But that doesn't mean it's not a good option when it is effective, and it has been proven effective. And we're fortunate to have two leaders behind us that have led schools, successful A schools, one in a community model, one out of the state of Georgia, and one in Florida, that know the model well. And really that investment this year of how do we get there with our schools here we're seeing those things pay off. And I think what you will see in turn are those rates changing as a result of that.
When it comes to school choice, that we've been talking about, how do you meet that challenge? How do you educate your families maybe before students enroll so that they understand that model?
Well, one of the good things about having a school down the road that's in this model, which we didn't have when we opened Rutherford Collegiate Prep, I could explain it to you and say, well, every grade level is its own community, and it's a big open space, kind of like this room, where you can partition off and you can say it, but until you actually can tour it and see it in action, it's really hard for people to visualize it because we all went to school. It's the one thing that we all have in common is that we've all been to school and we all had a classroom that was very traditional. And so it takes a minute for that shift to happen. Now what we have is a school that we can say, come and tour, come and see it in action, because we do believe parents know best. And so once they tour it and they get to see it for themselves, the same would be true for a teacher. Really seeing and talking to teachers. We interview teachers on a team. We want to make sure that they come in with all of that information. And so making sure that they get those questions asked and answered with someone who's teaching in that model has been really helpful as we've hired in year 2 and beyond. So having like a model in place from both the student lens, the parent lens, and the teacher lens has been super helpful. Thank you for the question.
There's a joke that opens Annie Hall, and there are 2 people sitting together having dinner, and one of them says, "This food is terrible." And the other says, "Yes, and in such small portions." If the school is a D and a 1, you would not want teacher retention to be 100%. You want that to change. From a board standpoint, that's what you want. It's a great question. I want to be sure we're looking at the whole picture, and I know you are.
Thank you. Thank you. We only have one last question for you today, and this is a technical one. Mr. Garza?
Yes, where can we find evidence of conflict of interest policies and required surety bonds?
We'll get the surety bond question for you. The board has adopted a conflict of interest policy that we'll make sure you have.
Exactly. The board's conflict of interest in our schedule of insurance contains the surety bond that we have to share with too many people about too many things, all the way through related to that as well with the fiscal and the retirement aspects of that. So we could provide and have actually provided the schedule of insurance, but we could provide that evidence of that as well.
And it could be you just need to point out to us where that is in the insurance policy, because for us that don't work in the insurance industry, if it's not spelled out and says, this is the surety bond, we have trouble finding that, okay?
Give me 25, 30 minutes. I'm sure I could also find it in there as well.
Okay, any other members of the committee have any other questions we haven't asked, or is there anything you want to know that you have not learned today? Go ahead, Mr.
Talking
Bond.
about the teacher retention and student retention, you say that it's not a fit for everybody. I just wondered, do you evaluate what you're doing to find out that maybe something in your, that part of that could be, or something in that could be an issue with your teachers and your students wanting to leave? I'm old, but I mean, I've always believed that if you evaluate what you're doing, I mean, it could be, it's not a fit for everybody, and everybody's got a better yo-yo. But, I just wonder, do you also evaluate what you're doing to see if there's something in there that may be the root, that maybe you can improve on? So,
Well, I can tell you, if there were ever a moment of self-reflection, we have had it in the last 2 years. It has been a moment where we, as a team, pulled together to say, what are we doing well and what are we missing here. And I can assure you that is continuing. That is part of even our educational model is continuous improvement. What we know is that we change, kids change, jobs change, needs change, and I know that with the educators in the room, they can speak to the same. Kids, what we have today and the needs that they have are very different from when we were growing up. And so, yes, sir, we are constantly evaluating, and certainly after year one of RCP, and actually before we got to the end of the first year, we began that exact process to say, we know the model is proven, so where are we, what is our role that we aren't implementing with fidelity, and where are those opportunities to actually change that, and I feel like have made those important changes that, again, as we started year two. Thank you for asking that, though.
Okay, before we talk about just what happens next, the next steps, we want to open the floor to see if you had any questions for us that we could answer.
We actually have two. The first one is, do you have any remaining concerns that would prevent you from recommending approval that we could help provide other than what you've called out to us?
I think as a team, we identified our chief concerns and addressed those with the questions that we have asked today.
And so as we follow up and provide those additional pieces at that point, if there's anything further, we absolutely would love to continue to provide whatever the review committee needs to make the recommendation.
Great, thanks for that opportunity, and we will reach back out to you with if we need further clarification. Most of that we kind of kept for today, knowing we would meet,
Yes.
but we still may have a few things that we need clarification on, and thanks for the chance to reach out and clarify that.
Of course. And I didn't get to go on the visit on Tuesday, so as you all who were there reflected on that visit, can you tell us what you thought was a strength of the model that you all observed? I don't know who all went, so I'm looking around because I don't know who all was there.
There were a few of us that were able to make it. In my mind, and everybody else can comment on this too if you'd like, but number one, I felt like the facility itself was a strength, the safety and security of that building, the measures that you have in place. I was very impressed with the common area that doubles as a storm shelter and the things that you have in place there to make sure that's a safe and secure area. I did feel like that is, if nothing else, it's a very safe environment for kids there. And I loved seeing the community aspect going on with the collaboration. I will say this, that what I had pictured in my head going into it, it was much different than that. And of course, when you first opened, a lot of parents under the confusion of who was your authorizer, many reached out to me, as you might expect, with concern. So I developed a picture in my head of what that community model looked like, and I must say it looked a lot different in play.
Positively, I hope.
Yes.
It's funny because that's exactly the point of having now a model that you can actually walk people through. I really appreciate you sharing that. And who else was on the visit?
I was there as well, and again,
I'm always trying to learn something new.
Go ahead, Mr. Lee. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was also there, and again, very impressed with the atmosphere, amazed at how well-behaved all the students were, even walking in the halls. It was very enlightening and a breath of fresh air. Seeing the small groups going on in the classrooms, and the students were engaged, and teachers were working with the students in small groups. Again, that was refreshing, because in our minds, it was like, oh, they have a morning meeting with everyone, and then everybody just goes on computers. And we didn't see that, but that was what was a preconceived notion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I just enjoyed seeing the facility, things that are done differently.
Did anyone go down the slide?
No,
We tried.
Oh, takers on the slide, okay.
I just wanted to say I love the building. It's magnificent. In the community model, we saw the big rooms, but at the time they were more partitioned. So I'm wondering, how often are those rooms open? I saw more isolated classrooms with just one teacher in there with a group of students. So are they ever open? Because my mind, the community is we're open, we're collaborating. You spoke about being able to collaborate with the teachers and stuff, but with those partitions closed, how often are they open to really kind of see the community model?
Well, Ms. Ellison can answer specifics, but I can tell you that at any given moment during the day, based on the plan and the learning and the collaboration with possible projects, they will be open during the day. It's when there might be direct instruction that's going on that you need that smaller, kind of quieter space where they might close, or, you know, the students have moved to tech time. But again, you'll see during social studies or during ELA where they're open and teachers are collaborating on that kind of interdisciplinary model where they're working together, but the ELA teachers circulating, looking for the specifics of their writing and the grammar, and the social studies teacher might be looking at the content for social studies and collaborating. So at any given time, but there is a schedule by which they go to direct instruction, where they go to phonics instruction, where they go to writing, and it just depends.
I would also add to that, oh, I didn't turn it on. I would also add to that with it being a new model and it being the community model and having teachers, you don't go to college or to the university and learn how to be a community model teacher. So with that, there's also a scaffolding process for teachers. So we may actually close the learning zones a little bit more in the beginning as we gradually roll out to where we're able to operate for all students and all teachers to have the community wide open throughout the day. To start the school year, or to even take a group of teachers and say, don't close your learning zones. If you are an experienced teacher or a brand new teacher at the very beginning of the school year, is very difficult. And it can be overwhelming for students and for teachers. When you bring a third grader in who comes from a traditional district and all of a sudden they're sitting with 90 peers and they're used to only sitting with 24 peers or 25 peers, that's a big difference for them. So in the beginning of the school year, we may close, or even now, leading up to TCAP in certain grade levels, we may close the partitions a little bit more while we're really in that preparation phase for what's coming next. But as we're working on those cross-curricular projects and designs and morning meetings or closing circles, those are great opportunities to have the partitions and the dividing walls open throughout the day.
Is that the same thing as when you say community teaching? Are you talking about team teaching? Is that where you put two or more groups together and one teacher may teach two of those classes?
There are certain aspects of it that are similar, but the community model itself is an opportunity for students and teachers to learn from a variety of individuals, whether they are learning from their peers or they have the opportunity to learn from 4 great adults in the community itself. We all have strengths and differences that are our go-to. And for myself and Ms. Morales, for example, she mentioned that she loved teaching writing. I love teaching math and science. We may all have the same certification, but we all have different strengths and skill sets that allow us to share those with teachers. At the same time, we know that students learn from different teachers, and they may connect with different teachers. And having that community model does not isolate or give 24 students the one advantage of always having the preferred teacher. Every child gets the preferred teacher, and every child gets to learn from someone. Every child gets to learn and connect with multiple adults instead of one teacher at one time.
Thank you. Okay, next steps in the process. Now that we have talked to you and listened to your responses today, the committee will have an opportunity to revise their scoring rubrics and get them back to me. We will reconvene as a team to talk about what we learned today and what our final, and to determine a final recommendation to make to our school board. Right now, the plan is to present our school board with a formal recommendation on the board work session of Tuesday, April the 21st. That's when I'll present the findings of the committee. And again, the board is not bound by our findings. It's just a recommendation we make to them. They are the decision makers in the authorizing process, and they will plan to take a vote on whether to approve or not to approve at their regular board meeting of Thursday, the 23rd of April. Okay? So that is the timeline going forward. And I appreciate everyone's time today. If the committee will stick around for just a second, I have a few closing words. And you guys, again, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure talking with you and hearing your responses to help alleviate our concerns.
Well, and thank you, Dr. McCann, and to all of you. We talked about people who were in the room once upon a time. This didn't happen 5 years ago. There was never this dialogue. There was never these great questions. There was never this interchange. And I say that in the spirit of continuous learning for all of us. We're grateful for this opportunity. It means a lot, and we're grateful for your considerable time today and in all this work. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Like you, we've learned from the process ourselves from early on, too. It was a learning curve for us as well, so thank you.